We have Stella Assange with us. Hello, Stella. How are you? And how are you feeling? It must be full of anticipation to see your husband coming in. Are you monitoring?
I'm monitoring the flight radar, and I think lots of people are also monitoring that. It's very exciting, even though it moves very slowly. It's incredibly exciting.
It's amazing too. I think that this is the most tracked flight on flight trackers. Everybody around the world is watching the screen and seeing this this plane sort of moving across the ocean. Where is he now? Over land, or is he still over sea, do you think?
Um, I think he's coming into Australia, but I'm not sure because I just did an interview, so I lost track.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Uh, Elated,
Yeah.
excited, exhausted.
Yeah.
All these things. I haven't slept for days. Obviously, I'm jet lagged. I don't think I've eaten today much. So my energy comes and goes, and the adrenaline comes and goes. But it's all. I'm very nervous and excited about meeting Julian at the airport.
It's almost surreal that this is actually happening after all these years.
Yeah, it's. I can't get my head around it. It's like I'm I'm having an out of body experience for a lot of this. Um, but on the other hand, I really believed this day would come. I've always had this belief. So I suppose things.
Yeah, it's full of disbelief. And what about the boys? You told them that there would be a big surprise today. Do they know what the
Yes, they're
surprise is?
bouncing around. They're bouncing around like two little balls, jumping on the sofa.
Yeah.
Uh, they're very excited. I hope they're
Oh,
asleep tonight when he arrives because although I'm not sure because he's jet lagged. I mean, we're all jet lagged, so maybe
yeah.
they'll be awake. Um, but yeah, they're incredibly excited. They're incredibly excited to be in Australia. They're incredibly
Mm.
excited that the day that we've been talking about for so long is here.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, it's 9 o'clock here in London, and it's 6 o'clock, if I'm right, in your end of Australia, 6 o'clock p.m. So when is the anticipated landing on your local end, local time?
I think it's around 8, last I was told, but it might have changed. I'm being picked up in about half an hour to be taken to the airport. I'm meeting Julian's dad, John Shipton, at my hotel, and we're going to go together. We're going to be driven there um, by government people.
So so
uh,
give so give or take a couple of hours, it's happening. It's touched down on the ground.
yeah, it's definitely happening in about
Mm,
2 hours.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's been such a fight, but there are so many people that have come on board and made this possible. What is your thought? I mean, uh, who made all this happen?
It's millions of people. It's impossible to name them all.
Mm,
It's people who have been close to Julian. It's people who Julian has never met. Uh, all of uh, all over the world, literally. People have really care about this case on many different levels. They feel personally aggrieved by what's been done to Julian. And so I think uh, they feel vindicated. They feel that this victory is theirs, and it is. And this would never have happened if there hadn't been this groundswell of support of so many people mobilizing in big ways and small ways to come together to shift the political environment in a way that made it possible to free Julian. And I don't think we should, even though I said earlier I had faith this would happen, it wasn't at all a given at all. We faced a very hard uphill battle when Julian was kidnapped from the embassy in 2019. It was incredibly hostile. There had been such an intense campaign. We know a lot about that campaign now, by the way, but an intense smearing campaign against him to basically rob him of the support that he has today, to rob him of that possibility by constantly attacking him, undermining him, attacking his reputation, with lies and smears. And since then, a lot of time has passed. 5 years he's had to pay with 5 years of his life, the best years of his life, when not 5 years, I mean 5 years in Belmarsh, but 14 years. He was in his 30s when I met him, and he was, I think, 38 or 39 when he published the Chelsea Manning leaks. And here we are 14 years on, and there have been incredible attacks against him. But the point is that people mobilized, that people had the power coming together to overcome this incredible machinery that had borne down on Julian and WikiLeaks and tried to destroy him. And we made it. We made it together, not just those around Julian, but we are sustained by those millions of people who have been carrying this for years.
Yeah, just imagine the journey. I mean, we were sitting at Euston Station in April 2019, April 11th, and when the call came in, can you remember that call? It was just, Julian was arrested. At that point in time, it was a low point. The smearing had actually worked. It was horrible. It was horrible how he was being dealt with in media. So we are now here 5 years later. Yes, he has paid this price of being incarcerated for all this time, but there's been an absolute turnaround in public opinion. But there are still bad people in this world, but we are now seeing a moment where the good people are winning, finally.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there are factions within the United States and other countries, allied countries, that want Julian, that didn't want this, that didn't want Julian freed ever. They wanted to make him a continuous example, to basically bully everyone else into submission. And they're angry today. But the vast, overwhelming majority of humanity is celebrating this moment, because it's a moment of humanity, of justice, of freedom, of long anticipated history in the making. And we won.
Talking about good people, we have actually Agnes Callamard on hold with us. Let's see if she can join us, Stella. She's the General Secretary of Amnesty International. Amnesty International has been very supportive, and Agnes, both in her current capacity and in her previous capacity as a special rapporteur on torture. Welcome, Agnes. Thank you to join us. And Stella, can you hear me? She can hear. Welcome. I cannot hear you. So what's your reaction to the news today? What's happening?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I was talking to you, Agnes. Thank you and welcome. It's good to see you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hello. Well, I'm elated. I'm so happy that he's finally going home. I'm so happy for his wife. I'm so happy for his kids. Happy for everyone who worked on his behalf for so many years, and I know worked so hard, because I was privileged enough to be following them on and off. It's a labor of commitment, a labor of love, a labor of belief. Belief in him, belief in press freedom, belief in justice. So I think we should be celebrating, and knowing that the fight goes on.
If I go
because
on,
there are many more journalists, many more people like him who are behind bars, who are facing threats. The situation of press freedom around the world is at its worst. And the fight goes on, but I think today we just need to celebrate, because we don't have so many days of celebration, and today is a great day.
I totally agree with you, and we have Stella here as well.
I can see her. Hi, Stella.
Hi, Anya.
And I mean, thank you so much for your support. I mean, remember that we met briefly when you were a special rapporteur on torture, doing a very brave work on the Khashoggi report, which you were very much criticized for. It was a brave move on your behalf to be such a firm in the decision in that report. Which is about the assassination of a journalist, of course, a horrible event. But now we are here, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. And I've been saying this earlier here on this streaming. I hope this marks a turning point, that this victorious day will mark a turning point in the fight for journalism, because there's a lot to do. Stella, do you think that we will have Julian in that battle for all the journalists and for journalism? And he's been fighting for that all his life: the transparency, information freedom, and the right to publish.
Well, Julian's commitments don't go away. I think it's congenitally impossible for him to stop fighting injustice. But for now, I think he will need some time to recover, to rest. But Julian is always going to fight for the rights of victims everywhere. He feels it in his skin when someone is being victimized. He has dedicated himself to giving the tools to try to overcome the imbalance of power and enable victims to fight back. So I don't know what will happen next or when, but in the immediate future, Julian needs time to recover.
Of course, I mean, we fully respect that needs to happen. That's what I told to Julian on Saturday, when I think I was the last visitor to actually see him in Belmarsh. And thankfully, I hope I'll never see that place again, that horrible place. And I said, I'm not gonna bother you for weeks now. You need to take now time to, and imagine. I mean, after all this sensory deprivation throughout the years. I mean, he has never seen for 14 years a full sky and breathe the fresh air and stand on the beach watching the ocean. The thing that we take for granted in our lives, it's almost going to be an attack on the sensories, that to be having to experience this freedom, this extraordinary feeling. But we're so happy for him. Agnes, do you think that this moment will send waves across the globe and encourage people to start care about press freedom and all these incarcerated journalists, and start caring about not just journalism, but the journalists who are, unfortunately, we're seeing them in targeted killings and etc. Do you agree that we might see a turning point now?
I think the first thing I wanted to react. I think we need to acknowledge that Julian Assange has been a victim of cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. That he may have been, in fact, a victim of torture because of the conditions of detention. So I fully support what Stella just said. He will need time to recover, like all victims of that kind of treatment. And we need to give him the space and the time to do so before putting him under too much political pressure. I mean, it will be his own choice, but we need to acknowledge the nature of the treatment that he has received under in prison, in solitary confinement. In terms of the signal to the rest of the world, it's a mixed signal. As we know, we need to celebrate because we don't have many opportunities for celebration right now when it comes to press freedom and the situation of journalists. It is as good an outcome as we could have hoped for, and that's great. There is still, of course, this dark cloud in relation to the Espionage Act, and journalists in the US in particular, but abroad, given the extrajudicial arm of the US, are not free of the kind of abuses and violation that the US administration, several US administration, attempted to impose on Julian. So the situation of press freedom has not shifted because of the release of Julian. What may have shifted is our commitment, or not shifted, but what has been strengthened, I think, is our commitment to keep fighting, because we can have a good outcome, but far more is needed, of course. Protection of journalists must remain on top of the agenda. We know what's happening in Gaza right now, where journalists have been killed in large numbers, some of them actually specifically targeted because they are journalists. We know what's happening in terms of the imprisonment of journalists around the world. Our colleagues from Committee to Protect Journalists and Reporters Without Borders have denounced the rising numbers of journalists being arrested. We know that the indicators for freedom of expression more generally are going down, as our colleagues from Article 19 have shown. So there is, this is a day to be strong, but this is not the moment to just think we have achieved what we need. On the contrary, we need to keep going. We need to ask far more and stronger international guarantees for people like Julian Assange and other journalists. We need to insist that those governments that pretend to be espousing so-called human rights in their views or democratic principle actually put their actions, ensure that their actions follow their words. We need to do far more at international, regional, and national level. Press freedom, freedom of expression in the United Kingdom is not great right now, and there needs to be far more. We hope that the election will be an opportunity for those running for election to demonstrate their commitment. And around the world, in fact, that's what is needed right now. So far more. But today we say welcome and enjoy.
We will. Thank you so much, Agnes, to be with us, and thank you for the support throughout the years, and actually for Amnesty International for putting their organization in the front of the battle alongside other organizations. It's been incredible to have that support. Thank you so much, Agnes, to be with us in this live stream.
Thank you very much, and Stella, enjoy the next weeks, months, years. Congratulations for everything you've done. It's really, I want to insist on that. The freedom of Julian Assange is today is first and foremost because his family has been fighting relentlessly for him. His lawyers have been fighting relentlessly for him. And it is, I want to really, really recognize the fantastic work that all around him have done to get him where he is now, in a plane on his way to Australia. So thank you on behalf of all of us, because your fight means so much to all of us, and it will have implications for all of us. So thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Agnes.
I totally agree, Stella. It's because I mean I'm so proud to know you and to observe your fight. I mean, you are a phenomenal fighter. I mean, it's been incredible to watch you under the difficult circumstances, to be a mother, the wife, and the campaigner. I mean, how do you go? How can you deal with all these juggling? It's just superhuman, Stella. Full of admiration.
Well, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but I think, you know, my fight for Julian and his friends and family who fight for him, who've been fighting for him. This is an expression of our love for Julian, who's such an extraordinary human being and who has been suffering, suffering so tremendously. And how could we not? How could we not?
Yeah, I mean, I notice you're emotional. I have had people giving me a call, the supporters who have been crying, but they've been crying now the tears of joy and unstoppable. Journalists, we've been working with people who have been in the campaign that just couldn't believe the news, and it's such a good feeling to have tears of joy finally instead of the sorrow we've been going through for all these years. Can you tell me what's going to be up next now on your end? Will you have a press conference on the ground? Just practical information for people who are watching.
We're going to have a press conference here in Canberra after Julian's landed, about an hour, and I think it's an hour and a half after he's landed. We'll confirm that on social media. It also depends on the flight estimated arrival and so on. And we'll be able to give everyone more information. And I think this live stream is going to be live streaming it, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, we hope to do so. Yes, I'm sure you were following the proceedings on the tourist paradise, the Northern Mariana Island. And I've actually listened to the audio from the courtroom, and it was incredible. And I have to admit that yes, we said he was free on Monday, but that was free from Belmarsh. Then he was free from the United Kingdom, but continuously it was not until he walked out of the courtroom in the district court of the Northern Mariana Island that he was finally free. Did you watch and observe? What went through your mind that you saw the imagery of him going out of the courtroom as a free man?
It was incredible to watch. I mean, I started crying, tears of joy. I was very, very emotional when I saw it. I wished I had been there. But Julian tells me that the people of Saipan were very nice and treated him very well, and that the weather was very good. That usually it rains every day, but today it didn't rain, and it was very balmy weather. So I think it was a very soft landing for Julian.
It was a soft landing. I saw it was windy, and I said, "Wow, it's like he's my home country, Iceland, where it's constantly windy. But it's refreshing after being in a dungeon for all this time and on that airplane for such a long time. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Who are with him on the plane? Can you tell us?
So it's there's Jennifer Robinson. He's a long-standing lawyer who everyone probably knows. Barry Polak, his U.S. criminal defense attorney, who flew in from Washington to London to take that flight with Julian on Monday morning. I think he flew in Monday morning. Anyway, the flight left Monday afternoon. And the High Commissioner, the Australian High Commissioner, which is another word for ambassador to London, Australian ambassador to London, and in Saipan they were met with the Australian ambassador to Washington D.C., Kevin Rudd, who is on the plane back to Canberra. So we have two ambassadors and two of Julian's lawyers who were there, and the atmosphere in the plane is very positive. When I spoke to him as he was leaving Saipan, the connection was not great, but it sounded very relaxed and good.
I mean, it's quite an entourage to have two ambassadors, one former prime minister, flying in to, I hope, a hero's welcome. It's such a great day. Stella, we might maybe hear from more of you, but I need to let you go. There's your preparations.